today. My name is Greg Mingarelli, and the reason I stand here today, and the reason why I'd like to be your next mayor is I love Prescott, Arizona. Back in 1995, my wife and I, with our two little boys, came to town, and we were absolutely surprised at just how friendly this town was and how welcoming it was. Downtown was vibrant and active with lots of life, and it really reminded me of the small towns I grew up in Kansas. And so at that point we said, you know what, we're going to move here and raise our family. And that's what we've done. Raising a family here, having our kids with the teachers and coaches they've had throughout the 22 years that we've been here has been absolutely amazing. Being able to work at United Christian Youth Camp and have success in business and have the business community wrap around me and support me and help me has been amazing. And then finding a church community that was helpful for us in terms of identifying with our beliefs and supporting our family. And it's been a great time for us to look back. And all those experiences and opportunities are something that I would like to give to the next generation. My son's in the workforce. I have 3 in college. They talk about wanting to stay in town. And selfishly, I want them to stay in town. So as your mayor, I would like to make sure that we create those opportunities. We want to make sure that we have the places for our young people and our families to stay here in town if they would like to. And so as your mayor, that's what I'd like to do. Thank you.
Beth?
I'm a little embarrassed. I thought we were going to talk about football this afternoon, so. Good afternoon. I'm Mary Beth Wren, and I would like to be the next mayor of Prescott. I've been the person behind the scenes. I've been working really hard for a lot of hard issues in Prescott. I worked real hard on the structured sober living bill. I'm the one who actually drafted the preliminary legislation for that. And I've been working really hard on the PSPRS problem. I know that I have the skills, the ethics, but most importantly, the passion. I have a vision for the city. So I'd like to thank all of you this afternoon for showing up. You took a lot of time out of your afternoon to come here. And I thank all of you for writing down your questions. I hope we get the time to answer all of them. And I'd like to thank you, Linda and Arwap, for putting this all together, and Las Fuentes for doing that. So let's get started.
Okay, first question, and I'm going to go ahead and have you choose, Mary Beth. Do you want to go first or second?
Paper, scissors, rock.
Which one? You want a minute?
Sure.
Okay, the first question, and I'm going to ask a pretty simple question, a pretty light question, so that they can get a chance to start thinking about answering them. Other than PRS, what do you feel is the most pressing problem Prescott faces and why? So we'll start with you, Greg. You have a minute.
Okay. I think the airport is very, very important to our city. I'd like to see more jobs and opportunities like I spoke of a minute ago. If Valdosta, Georgia can have a regional jet service, why can't Prescott? We need to partner with our local communities. We need to figure out how to get the infrastructure in there. We need to partner with Embry-Riddle and make sure that we use their expertise. And then we need to make sure we get this airport done because it's going to help our city economically and create more opportunities and get us down the road. And so I think the airport is very important. And wouldn't it be nice not to have to drive down I-17 to catch a plane?
Mary Beth?
Absolutely agree with you. I think it's economic development, and there's no way we can have economic development without the expansion and the regionalization of our airport. I know everyone doesn't want to talk about PSPRS, but the problem is the tentacles are everywhere with this because we cannot invest or tax our way out of this problem. So without true economic development, this city is going to fail. So absolutely, economic development is the biggest problem that we have to really address here and really. I think, unfortunately, what's happened in Prescott, the biggest thing, unfortunately, we've been exporting is our brightest students and our young people. And this has to stop. We have to find a way to keep them here. And the only way we can do that is get them good jobs and keep them in this community. And that's what we have to do with our economic development.
Okay, the next question, and we'll just go back and forth, is I enjoy hearing your points of view, but along party lines, and this is a nonpartisan election, what is your view what is your view of the need to maintain open space?
Open space is very important to this community, and I think this community is really fortunate to have, we're surrounded by Prescott National Park, Forest. We have a vast park system in our community. But here's what I don't support. I don't support buying any more open space right now, given our financial situation. We have an open space fund, it has funds in it, and I would consider using those funds right now to support buying some really good deals on property. But going out and actively searching for open space at this time, absolutely not. We have a financial crisis now. We can't possibly be doing this. We really have to get serious and look at the financial crisis we face and what's coming down the pike.
Well, I'm an avid mountain biker, and so I take advantage of the trails around. I think we're benefiting with our tourism right now, just with the open space and the trails and all the recreation that we have. So I'm grateful for those that went before and got us some open space. But much like Mary Beth, I would agree that at this point, we have to figure out what our wants are and what are the needs and what can we really do. I would want more open space and more recreation opportunities. I'm just not sure that we're in a position right now financially to do that. And so at this point, I would say, hey, I love what we have. Let's continue to cherish that, but I'm not sure that we have the financial ability to do any more at this time.
And in order to not have one person go first each time, we'll switch again, and we'll have Greg take this one. This one says, do you support importing water from Chino Valley to reach safe yields? But I would like to expand that question a little bit on what do you think of the challenges we face with water conditions in the Prescott area, and what would you do about it? So if you could answer kind of both of those would be great.
Yeah, water is very important here, obviously. It can stop or drive development. Right now, in the Chino Basin, they're doing a lot of modeling and a lot of monitoring of wells to make sure that it's not negatively affecting the aquifer. And so that process has to play itself out. Unfortunately, there'll probably be litigation even once we get those results. And so that's a very long-term view or solution to our water issues. I'm grateful for the current council and the conservation efforts that they've taken part of here recently. I saw recently where we've now changed the allocation for single family and multi-family high density, where it gives us more water in our portfolio here in Prescott. And so I think we've done a great job with conservation, and it's really paying off. I think we need to continue to do more conservation, and I think long term, we may see that pipeline at some point, but not in the near future.
I am in support of the Big Chino pipeline. There is no way for Prescott to reach safe yield without it. And we are mandated to reach safe yield. Under the agreement we have with the Salt River project, it is $5.5 billion hydraulic studies. We are about 4 years into a 10-year study of that. We will not be drawing water from that area if it is impacting the Verde River. So I'm not as pessimistic as Greg. I do not believe there'll be litigation because the previous models were not as refined. And so this study will really, I think, really have a much more refined model of what's going on there. The thing about the city's policy, as far as what they've done right now, as changing the allocation, what is really good about that, and I really agree with that, is the water that's been saved, and people are concerned with that, that it's just going to be used for future development. They've clearly said that even though the allocation is dropped, it's not going to be used for future development, so I applaud the council on that.
One more question before we get to the big question. Every one of you talk about your pet projects, which spells spending money. What have you done to respond to citizens? That's this question. So what I would say in a broader sense is, what ways are you looking at saving money in the city government, and what areas are you looking for to bring in revenue? So do you want to go first, Mary Beth?
I really don't have any pet projects because I'm I live, eat, and breathe this PSPRS stuff. You really used to have friends before this started for me. What we really have to do is really cut expenses on all this stuff. Now you have to repeat this question because I actually got so confused on it.
It's about saving and spending money
Yeah,
and bringing in revenue.
New revenue is, we really do have, it is the economic development, and we talked about incubating. My proposal is what these kids at Embry-Riddle do. They have these projects, and there's really no way to incubate them. And my proposal is we can get we have philanthropic groups, we have developers that have made a lot of money. I'd like to partner with people that have graduated from Embry-Riddle. Let's get these alumni people, and let's get some matching funds together, start this incubator center. What venture capitalists like to see, they like to see a community that is really committed. When this starts, and we can start this incubator center up at Embry-Riddle, we can bring venture capitalists in here, and that's the kickstart, this tech centers and this incubator center, and that's my proposal.
I don't have pet projects, do I need to say that? I would say in terms of saving money in the city, if we can privatize, I'm all for that. Again, you have to look at that very carefully. You have to make sure you have the kind of control and quality that you can maintain when you do privatize. We've done some of that in the Prescott School District with food service and with janitorial, and it has worked pretty well. So I'd love to look at that in terms of saving money. In terms of generating revenue, it comes back to the airport. I already talked about that. I think that's a great economic development tool. In addition to that, I would agree that we've got to figure out how to keep intellectual capital in our town. Embry-Riddle, Yavapai College, Prescott College, we have those students who are well educated. Let's figure out a way to help them start their business, get some venture capital in here, and make sure that we can create an environment that's friendly to them, that's helpful, so that we can keep them in town.
We have a couple questions here that have been touched on, but I think it would be good to give them as a question so we can get more information, and that would be about the airport. One says, Mr. Bob, is that the airport manager? Well, yeah, but this, yeah, okay, I think it's Jim Robb is what they're talking about. So Mr. Jim Robb is trying to bring technology to our airport area. He said at a recent meeting that if 443 doesn't pass, tech won't come. Do you believe this is true? And then another one is on around the airport. It says if Prescott has $30 million in reserve, why hasn't the city moved forward with a new terminal at the airport? So who would like to start? Okay, great.
Okay, so this is around the airport and 443 passing, and was there something else you mentioned?
Just that the technology that they bring in will, not having an airport developed cause problems with bringing in technology.
That is necessary, okay. Yeah, well, 443 is in the hands of the voters. I support 443, but you know, we're gonna figure out what we need to do because we're Prescott, Arizona, and we're independent. We're gonna figure out what we need to do, whether or not that passes. I don't want that to be seen as a hindrance to moving forward. I would say that, yes, tech companies that come to town are gonna wanna see that we at least have a plan and we're moving forward on the airport. The airport being developed is vital for bringing in tech businesses, and I think that's a great sector of businesses to have here because it's clean, doesn't take a lot of water, and so I think we're gonna figure it out through 443 whether it passes or not, and we definitely gotta get the airport moving.
Absolutely agree with Greg on this one. It is vital. We were always looking at the airport as just for consumers. How do we get consumers to Denver? How do we get consumers to LA? We actually have to look at the business community now. Because this, as I said before, we can't tax or invest our way out of this pension problem. We have to grow our way out. We have to bring businesses here. And the tech sector is the way to do it. And I don't believe that 443 is the linchpin in all this. There are other ways to do this, and I believe this community, if it does not pass 443, I believe there's other ways to attack it. I'm in favor of a sales tax dedicated to police and fire operations if 443 doesn't pass. I believe 443 is a fatally flawed language in the ballot, and I think we can talk about that later. But the economic development around the airport, it really is pivotal. And no, I don't believe that it hinges on the ballot proposition at all.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to the PSPRS question. So again, I have 11 cards on PSPRS and I have 9 that are on individual questions. So there is a lot of interest in this for sure. What I would like you to cover is what is your feeling on PSPRS, and would you work on amending, or not necessarily amending the Constitution, but working at the state level to correct it? What do you feel about working at the level of Prescott to correct it? And do you agree with it, yes or no? Who would like to start?
The only way we're really going to get anything done is absolutely structural reform. And unfortunately, it's going to have to come from the ground up. I do spend a lot of time in the state legislature, and I'll tell you, I'm absolutely appalled that the vast, vast majority of them know nothing, and I mean nothing about this system.
Mary Beth, may I interrupt? I'm going to give you both about 3.5 minutes on this one, okay? Okay, sorry.
They know nothing about it. And what's even worse, they know nothing on how difficult it is for these municipalities to make their payments. And that's actually the purpose of Representative Campbell and Stringer's ad hoc. They're going to make presentations around the state. And I'm going to tell you, I'm actually honored and privileged that I'm going to be the one doing that presentation. I'm going to be actually telling the legislators how difficult it is. Because they don't know, it's choking the very lifeblood of all these municipalities. And the bottom line is they don't want to deal with it because it has to do with confronting the unions. And when it comes down to the ultimate thing of taking the pension clause out of the Constitution, we will have to confront all of the unions, police, fire, and teacher unions. It's just that simple. Because they will be all over the Capitol lawn. It's just, I mean, I live, eat, and breathe this stuff. And that's really what everyone has to understand, how difficult this is. It takes a lot of courage for these two to go and do that. 443, the reason I don't support it is because there's no way for the voters to be assured that our pension liability is going to be paid down. I wrote an article, it's in Prescott News, and that was my concern. I brought a prop here. Our pension contribution every year consists of 2 things, normal costs and our pension liability. We pay this every year, we always have. And our pension liability gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And we've always made our costs. Our bill. So unless we use that tax on top of this every single year, we are never going to pay down our liability, ever. And there's no way to assure that that tax is going to be used on top of this, the way that ballot language is written. So that's why I can't support it. So that's why I do support a sales tax dedicated to the police and fire departments. Because that's why it can be assured to fund those departments and that there's no funds freed up for other stuff. We're in a critical issue here. I could talk about dropping expected rate of returns and how it's going to explode our contribution rates. It'll bore you people to death. Thank you.
Well, there's 2 things going on. We have to take care of our $78 million unfunded liability that's staring us in the face, and we have to have reform at the state level with the pension fund. Those are the 2 things that are happening. That's kind of the way I see it. So in terms of the $78 million that no one's going to pay for us, that is not going to go away, we have to take care of that. And it's a constitutionally mandated that we do that. And so I say we get on the bandwagon and get that done as quickly as we can, and that's why I support 443. That money needs to go to the unfunded liability. We'll continue to do I would be in favor of continuing to do what we're already doing with general fund money towards the pension fund. And then in addition to that, taking the money from 443 and spending it, paying down the unfunded liability. And so I support 443. In terms of reform for the pension fund, I think there are definitely some things that have happened that have helped it function better, but there are probably still some things that need to be done. I would love to work with the state on this. It is a state issue, as we all know, but collectively with the council, I think we can help influence the state to make sure that it gets done and gets done right. It's going to take some time. I do appreciate the legislators, Stringer and Campbell, for what they're doing here by starting to get around and make sure people understand what this pension fund is about. So I appreciate them doing that. So I think we've got to kind of take both parallel tracks. We have to pay what's in front of us with this unfunded liability. It's not going away, and I would like to use 443 to do that. And then in addition, we have to make sure that we get the reforms we need to make sure this thing works better.
So at this point, each have a wild card, and each gets to talk on any subject that they wish for 1 minute. Let's make it a minute and a half.
I wanted to just kind of correct Greg on the Prop 124. That's the problem with all this. People and the legislators and maybe some of the voters people thought that it was going to correct it. It doesn't. Looking at the actual reports, 11 years into the future on Prop 124, our contribution rates for the fire department actually go up. It's not touching this problem. This is a disaster. And I know a lot of stories float around, like we have a constitutional protection, or we have to pay the bill under the Constitution. No, we don't. That's their pension is constitutionally protected, but it's not under the Constitution that we have to pay this. It's not. I'm not splitting the hairs here. The legislature created the system. It's under statutory language. There's a big difference here. And this is why, from the very beginning, my thing with Prop 443 and the stand for Prescott, I have done what I've done because I feel so strongly about having a pension system for the rank and file people. I've never heard them say protect the pensions. I heard them worrying about their property values. If it's not corrected, there will be no pensions for them, and that's a shame because they deserve a pension.
So Greg's going to use his wild card.
A few days ago, there was a shooting at a baseball practice. And it's just kind of indicative of what's going on in our country in terms of the divisions that we have and kind of the anger and the hate. And it's really unfortunate. And I think one of the things that we're not talking about today that's important to remember is there is a distrust for government. And people are upset. And I think we need to figure out how to come together, how to figure out where we have common ground and build consensus, and then begin building that trust back, which takes time. I think you tell people what you're going to do, and then you do it. And you keep doing that over and over again, and keeping your word, and you can build trust. I also think we need to have respect for one another, and I will expect city employees to respect each other and you, the taxpayer, because that's where your money's coming from, to pay them. And so I really want to focus in on trying to bridge this divide that we have in our country, which really all politics are local, and want to make sure that we try to get more trust, more respect for one another, and more civility.
I don't know if those were your closing remarks, but you have to come up with some closing remarks now. But those were really good, but we'll have Mary Beth go first. So you have 2 minutes to do closing remarks. Again, you guys are really putting yourselves out there, all of you. You're really providing for service to this city, your time, your effort, and I think every one of these candidates up here deserves a lot of respect and a lot of admiration for what they're doing. It takes time and energy to do this kind of work. So with that, I'm going to ask Mary Beth to do her closing remarks and to convince all of you of her candidacy and why you should vote for her.
Thank you. Prescott is at the crossroads. So we can do what we've always done in the past. We can vote for a person we know, or we can change our destiny and vote for a person who knows the issues. We can vote for a person who's already successfully done things for the city, who's already worked for the hardworking taxpayer, and that's you. There are many hard problems we face in this city. But make no mistake about it, the hardest problem we face here is definitely PSPRS. And when the time comes, it is going to be the mayors of this state who are going to have to go down to the Capitol and fight this. So I want to ask you, you have to ask yourself, which one of these candidates are going to be able to do that? Which one of these candidates are going to be able to take on the unions? And it's going to be the police, the fire, and the teachers union. Because it's going to have to come a time we're going to have to fight to take the constitutional protection of the pension clause out of our Constitution. But I am optimistic. I really believe we can do this with the people. We will educate the people, and we'll be able to do this. We'll protect our cities. We'll protect their pensions. It's time for change. Time for change at City Hall. It's time to change your destiny. So I'm asking for your support, and I'm asking for your vote on August 29th. Thank you all for showing up. Linda, thanks for everything.
I am the most qualified candidate to be your next mayor. Let me tell you why. I grew up in small town in Kansas, and I understand small town values. I understand what it is to work hard. I understand what it is to be fiscally responsible. I understand what it means to be friendly and welcoming, to be a good neighbor. My education gives me what I need to be qualified for your mayor because I have a resource management degree at Kansas State. And that degree is a foundation for me to better understand how to manage natural resources, financial resources, and human resources. My work experience here in town at United Christian Youth Camps has given me the experience to run business so that I can successfully lead this city. I started at this small camp. We had 10 employees, and today we have over 200 employees on payroll. When I started, we had $400,000 in annual revenue, and today we have over $4 million of annual revenue. I've led through that change, I've led through that growth, and I know what it means to run a small business. Finally, my position as president of the Prescott School Board gives me the public service experience that I need to be your next mayor and to lead this city. Beyond all that, the most important thing that qualifies me to be your next mayor is proven leadership. Proven leadership at the camp as well as the school board. You see, I have the ability, proven ability, to take a group of people that are on opposite sides of an issue, where there's divisions and factions, and find common ground and build consensus and create solutions that we can then reach for a goal to get stuff done. And so that's why I'd like to be your next mayor. So please vote for me, Greg Mayoral.
So today I tried my best to cover all your questions. Some handwriting was a little bit tough, and some questions were a little bit off the mark, a little personal. And some questions, though, were very thoughtful and very good questions for all of you to hear the answers to. So I tried to go with those for the most part. I hope today that you were able to get information that you needed to make an informed decision, because that is why we're here. Like that quote said, it's the citizens of the world, and in this case, we're the citizens of Prescott, that really make our own destiny. And for you all to be here, getting informed and knowing what each candidate has to offer is very commendable. So thank you for being here. I think you should give yourselves a hand.